The human body is very complex. I specifically want to address the endocrine system, the nervous system, and our brains and our hearts. Let's first start with everybody has had this perception and this idea, this theory that our brains were the things that controlled everything in our body. No, that is not true. The brain actually receives messages from the heart. Your heart is receiving messages from intuition. And your heart actually has more going on it than you could imagine. We go into this more in some of our courses, but let's just keep it light. The heart is the actual brain. And for many people, it's becoming more and more developed. That's why you see so many shifts in our society because the heart is becoming more prominent. It's becoming more developed. It's getting exercised more. And people are starting to realize, wow, my heart is actually the one telling my brain what to do. The brain, think of it as like a divine widget. It has the ability to connect with the heart and it takes the direction from the heart and then decides like, okay, we need to release this hormone. We need to release and trigger this nervous system. We need to do these things for this body. The brain's job is to keep the body safe. So you're here in physical form having your human experience, right? If you don't like your human experience, you can change that. But right now, understand that your endocrine system is flooding your body with hormones every second of every day. Your nervous system is responding every second of every day. And that is all coming from all the mechanisms inside your brain that are releasing for your safety. So it could be not even doing like something physical, right? Like obviously we don't want physical injury upon anyone, but it happens. I just whacked my head the other day and knocked myself out because I hit it hard. Um, and that was not a fun injury. And it took my nervous system a couple weeks to like move out of that concussion. And I had to take precautions and I had to think twice because my decision making might have been a little off because things were all knocked loose. And at the same time, it flooded my system with a bunch of hormones. And being someone with fibromyalgia, that ended up causing a minor flare up for me. And so I immediately was like, okay, I got to throw these herbs on here. I got to get this much sleep. I need like my self care stuff kicked in. So that way my system didn't completely get stuck and taxed there. Right. So when you think about how your system works together, that is a perfect example. And when you understand how your system works, so if your heart is telling your brain what to do and your brain is orchestrating the magic inside your body, moving everything, what is it you are doing to help facilitate that? You know, drinking water, sleeping, eating the right food, all those types of things. Yes, do those types of things. It helps your brain function. Your brain takes more energy to use than it does when you're doing a workout. Yeah, fun fact. So when you're thinking about that, you really need to be putting things into your body so that the brain is triggering the right systems. That's how you end up in situations where you have too much of a hormone dump. And so you might be in a situation where your energy is misaligned because it's dumped too much cortisol into your system or adrenaline into your system. And once the adrenaline starts hitting your system, it triggers a whole bunch of other hormones. But without going into the details of that, what happens is you could end up in chronic fatigue from adrenal burnout, right? You could end up in burnout because your cortisol is just constantly dumping and you're not doing the enough of the other things. And so your heart is perceiving so many things as threatening and your heart rate starts increasing. And that's why I tell you to do the mindfulness and the meditation. Because when you do the mindfulness and meditation, it's telling your heart and brain to settle down. It's like, no, 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 let's get perspective here, people. We don't need to react. We need to think about this first. There is a time to react. Don't get me wrong. If I hadn't knocked myself out when I hit my head, I probably would have reacted because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm bleeding and been able to like okay, I need to fix this body. It's now bleeding because of this decision I just made to go running down the stairs, and being able to get that taken care of, right? That's what that's designed for. But since it doesn't know the difference, we need to increase our intuition so that we can start feeling more and more from our heart so that these other mechanisms are working properly. Because hormone imbalance and neurological imbalances cause all kinds of illnesses and diseases and side effects that are much harder to crawl out of. You can, but they are much harder to crawl out of than preventative action. If you are already in a spot, you probably are in one of our programs to be moving through these types of things and figuring out what works for you. But if you are in that spot, I recommend you start looking. You're obviously listening to this because you're concerned. You're starting to struggle. So start looking at yourself and some of the decisions and choices you're making and get those in alignment so that you're able to balance these systems better, preventing long-term damage because we don't want long-term damage. We're too busy. We got hot girl stuff to do, hot guy stuff to do. All right, enjoy your bliss.